again in Harrisburg, just outside the Capitol. It's back there behind those trees. We just got finished doing our lobby day for 2024. Thank you to everyone who came out. We had about 10, give or take, supporters come out and lobby our state legislatures on the problems and shortcomings with the sex offense registry here in Pennsylvania. And while we did talk about the upcoming Supreme Court case, Torsolari, which is due to be decided, well, could be any week now, any month now, I don't know. We had a few more things to share with policymakers here in the state. And so one of the first things we talked about was the need to look at this problem of sexual offending and sex crime in Pennsylvania and around the nation as a public health issue and something that needs to be addressed with prevention efforts and education efforts as opposed to judiciary and disciplinary efforts. So we would be much better off putting our time and attention and efforts and resources behind primary prevention methods and education on how to prevent these crimes from happening and prevent harm from happening than we would with extending registries, with longer prison sentences, extended periods of probation and parole, and the like. So that's our number one request. We can address the problem of sexual offending if we switch to a prevention-based mindset and away from a judiciary or a penal mindset. Our second request was to base legislation and policy on evidence-based solutions. So this again ties in close with what we can expect from the Torsolari decision and the rewriting, once again, of the sex offense registry. But we have plenty of evidence over decades that demonstrates that registries are ineffective, that the rates of recidivism for people on the registry are low, and that the majority of unfortunate incidents of victimization occurs from people who have a relationship to the person who is being victimized and not from stranger danger. So if we could implement these findings and move away from the myth of a frightening and high recidivism rate and put our resources where they can be most effective with evidence-based practices, that's the way to go. That's another thing we were asking from our policymakers today here in Harrisburg. On an issue that's come up more and more often, and we highlighted this in an email not too long ago, is the list of exclusions that are put against people who are on the registry when we have probation reform bills, criminal justice reform bills, sentencing bills. There are positive steps and steps in the right direction towards criminal justice reform in the state, but all too often there are carve-outs for people who have sexually based offenses or crimes of a sexual nature. So a recent example is the Pennsylvania Safety and Rehabilitation Act that passed the House not too long ago, and this would allow for people to get sentence reductions if they do programming and education while in prison. But if you have a crime of a sexual nature, you are not eligible for this sentence reduction and for the benefits of taking these programs. And so we're asking our lawmakers and those who do have criminal justice reform as one of their priorities to stop excluding people with sexual offenses or crimes of a sexual nature and include everybody in these important reforms that will lead to less recidivism and less harm to our communities, right? Because that's what we all want in the end, right? A safer Pennsylvania for all. Our fourth request was to start looking at this issue of what brings people to commit crimes of a sexual nature from a trauma-informed perspective. So the saying is that hurt people hurt people. So some of the same factors that lead somebody to go down a path of abusing drugs or alcohol, or to rely on a gambling addiction, or rely on, rageaholic or workaholism. Some of these same factors, like adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, can also lead a person to rely on pornography or on sex, and unfortunately take a road that can lead you in prison, doing jail time, and hurting other people. And so we're asking the people who create policy and who support reform to understand that this issue can be looked at from a trauma-informed perspective, and that the programs that we give people for drug rehabilitation or alcohol rehabilitation or second chances, we can do those same kind of measures for people with a sex addiction or for problem sexual behaviors. And our final request was to start using person-first language. So we would much rather hear about measures for people who have committed a sex offense as opposed to measures for sex offenders. And we'd rather hear about a person who has to register as opposed to a sex offender. We can use the word survivor instead of the word victim. And so again, this puts more dignity on people who have greater facets to themselves than just one element that should not define them. And so again, this was our lobby day here in 2024. It was a great success. Thank you to those who showed up. We will continue advocating for these important changes and building relationships to improve this flawed system we have right now with the sex offense registry. Again, we believe that the aim of the sex offense registry is pure, to protect people from sexual harm. It's just that the way we've been doing it and the execution has been poor. It has not been effective, and it's caused a lot of collateral consequences for people who are trying to return home from sentences, as far as getting housing and employment and building relationships. And it's also failing the people who continue to tragically be victimized year after year from failed efforts at prevention and a lack of primary prevention methods, and who will unfortunately continue to be victimized. And that in the end is the fault of the person doing the crime. And we can also do a better job as a society and as a state at giving everybody the best chances not to commit these kind of crimes and cause this kind of harm. So thanks for tuning in again. We will keep you updated on what we're doing. And of course, when that torcillary decision drops, you'll be the first to know. Stay tuned.